The museum is more than a wry commentary on life without aspirations. It's a salute to capitalism. From every corner, you're told why their economy failed, why nothing worked, and how a desperate people craved Western goods. Who's at fault? Well, the culprits are obvious, but the big ones, unions. The big lie of socialism, it's about the worker when it's really about power. And the government controlled its people through the bullying power of unions. In return, the unions were allowed to engage in slothful incompetence. In the end, you had a country full of worthless money and nothing to spend it on. But the museum visitors loved this grim world. To them, it was a carnival freak show. You know, the two-headed rabbit, the lizard-skinned man, the bearded lady, Joy Behar. I might say that socialism belongs in that group, except those other freaks, they never killed anyone. And if you disagree with me, then you, sir, are worse than Hitler. An old one. Mr. Whittle, you know what scares me is that the people in the museum were laughing at all this and reading the explanations, but we're probably going to go back and vote whatever way they went that might have supported unions or any of these policies. That's what drove me crazy.
You really need to see socialism to understand how amazing America is. I did a video on American exceptionalism, and people talk about it like, hey, USA #1. But if you get down to it, the United States produces 7 times more science than the next 6 countries put together. The top 50 movies of all time are American movies. Economically, we have 23%
well,
of China's...
depends what kind of movies you're talking
about.
All
movies. Okay. American studios spoken in English. 23% of China's population, we produce 3 times their GDP. 5% of the population. Why? Because the things that we believe in generate wealth, they generate success and prosperity, and people who live here and grow up here have no appreciation of it. I think every single American should have to take that tour, or at least watch you take that tour.
Yeah.
And get some real appreciation for how unbelievably remarkable this country is.
Well, to your point, and also to your name, because I like it, is I have not been to East Berlin, but I've been to Prague a couple times, and they've got the Museum of Communism there. And it's all about Soviet area, Czechoslovakia, and the conditions and everything. And I'm looking there, and I'm looking at all these horrible things and all the stuff that these people went through. And I think to myself, thank God for the billionaire savior of democracy that is George Soros for funding that Velvet Revolution. Without him, they would still be mired in that pollution, Greg.
Not true. Joe, shouldn't all Americans go there?
I think it's good for people who say, well, socialism just hasn't been given a chance. You can't find a better example. You have a country that was broken, and you had, here's the free market west side, here's the Eastern Bloc side, oppressed people, misery, country falls apart, another country where they're able to become wealthy and happy and overweight and make disgusting pornographic films. It's a true success story. I think
It's also true that it's amazing how counterintuitive capitalism is. No matter how many times we run this experiment, you have to explain to people all over again how the government providing health care isn't going to make it cheaper and better.
Yeah.
You know what the problem is? Too many syllables. Capitalist. That's hard to say. You got to make it.
It's hard for you, Bill.
Free market.
I think we all learned something that even in the time of East Germany, they still live better than Bill. All right. So,
and my last name is Schultz.
Yeah. So what are the kind of unfair?
Yeah, it's really unfair. Yeah.
All right. So what are the health benefits of smoking crack cocaine? Bill Will returns to talk about his new book, The President has ordered a 2-year kibosh on any and all non-military federal worker pay hikes. The move ticked off union leaders while saving $5 billion over 2 years. So is this a good thing? Or as some have countered, a good thing? Well, my houseboy Raoul did the math and found out that $5 billion equals just 0.3% of the $1.3 trillion deficit from a single year in Obama's budget. Indeed, this is nothing more than good PR, or as HotAir.com likes to call it, the lowest hanging fruit in Obama's bipartisan orchard.
That wasn't the intern that wrote that.
All right. What we called Uncle Fred. Hey, some say that he's, copying Clinton's triangulation approach. A, what is that? And B, where am I?
Triangulation is when you have 3 different points of view, you measure the angle to the midpoint, then you're able to determine where that other point is.
Is that what he's doing?
No. No. This is the smartest politician who ever lived. We've been told this repeatedly from before he was elected until the present day. You do the math on it, as somebody did already, and it turns out it's 0.000166 of the total deficit for next year. So he really has 2 hardcore base elements left, union workers and government people. He's talking about freezing the salaries to save 3% of 1% of this is the smartest politician in the history of the world. He's poking his stick in the eye of the only people left in the whole world who support him in order to save less than 1%.
But you could argue that he's trying, Ann. He's trying. Look, he's doing something.
Yes, and he's annoying government workers.
Yeah.
The spokesman for government unions interrupted his mid-morning nap to announce that this would not help the deficit. But no, this is what liberals always say. Everything we want to cut is, oh, that won't affect the deficit.
Yeah.
The only thing that will affect the deficit are the two things we can't cut.
Yeah.
Medicare and Social Security. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Then there's nothing we can cut.
Joe, Mike, they should just cut the jobs, not the pay, right? That's permanent.
Well,
Right.
what I liked was in the little video clip you saw.
Yeah.
I think we actually saw people literally rubber stamping paperwork. I think we actually witnessed the rubber stamping.
Yeah. That wasn't stock footage. That was actual.
Oh, yeah. You can see they're stamping their fingers down to the...
He's worried about that.
I don't think he is either.
Why is it only a freeze? How about a 20% cut like everyone else has taken in the recession?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you know, it's a question that Mike Baker can ponder.
Portland the other day for what reason?
Because he refused to go through the airport security pat-down.
Ooh, no, because he wanted to blow up a whole crowd at the Christmas tree lighting. Sorry you missed that one. Which musical act has had more hits according to some reputable poll-keeping thing? The Beatles or the cast of Glee? No?
Wait, did you say Julian Assange wants Hillary to resign? Because maybe we're being a little too
Don't get
hard
off
on
track
this
here
one.
just because you're 0 for 2, Ann. Don't go off topic here.
God forbid, Ann, that you actually referred to the stories we did.
Right, exactly. Name
the show.
Ann,
back to Star Trek.
name the two remaining Beatles.
Oh, we're still on me?
Yes, we're still on you. Name the two remaining Beatles.
Beatles?
Yes?
I guess, did George Harrison
McCartney and Starr.
and
Wow, okay.
Ringo.
Tony and
I don't
Chucky.
really like the
Okay,
Beatles.
President
I prefer the
Obama.
Rolling
This is
Stones.
President Obama. I got 2 questions left. President Obama just announced he'll put a 2-year freeze on what?
We just talked about that.
And so this is a test.
And so, what Ann thinks should be
freeze
cut by
on-
20%.
All right, and finally,
Federal salaries.
Mr. Freeze was the arch nemesis of which superhero and Justice League member?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right,
Answer
okay.
Batman.
0 for
Batman.
5.
Go away. All right. To another story.
Such a weirdo.
Yes.
Ah,
Strangest CIA agent ever.
if he was one.
Yes. Now I'm beginning to think he was like a birthday clown or something. He is. He's a birthday clown. All right. Sure on this. Let's go to Fox News political strategist. Weird, white, creepy things for comment. What say you, WWCT?
So does that look more like The View or sound more like The View?
So true.
It's interesting. Barbara Walters was out again.
Yeah.
I feel like she never shows up anymore.
Somewhere there's a castrated snowman. Joe, it's a fact. People with private property tend to care more about their private property than people who rent crap.
Okay.
Look at it. I mean, PG at work always would compare a public bathroom to a private bathroom.
Well, I'd agree with that. That if someone takes care of your housing for you, you don't treat it with much respect. But I think we're going a little bit too close back to the original definitions. I mean, we're talking about a time when you couldn't vote if you had property. This is a time when other people were considered property.
That is.
So
Yeah.
I don't think there's a real movement to head
Crazy. That particular version of the idea is crazy, but the idea behind it's kind of sound. The whole point of the founders wanting to have votes restricted to people who have property was because Alex de Tocqueville
Yeah.
Von Mises
actually said that the problem with the democracy is sooner or later the people wake up and they realize they can vote themselves money out of the treasury. So when half of the American population doesn't pay any taxes, they have no disadvantage whatsoever for voting on raising taxes because it's not coming out of their pocket.
Yes.
So I don't believe that you should have to have property in order to vote. Obviously, that's not very American these days. But I do think that everybody ought to have some skin in the game. If everybody was paying a flat tax rate, for instance, and you talk about raising taxes going to hurt you as much as it's going to hurt the evil rich. And I think that's really what was behind it in terms of the founders. They believed that they didn't want people voting themselves, largesse, out of the public treasury.
And you can't argue with that, Ann.